Well, like, whenever anybody mentions the word ISIS, whether it be conversation, debate, argument, whatever the case may be, for the majority of people, the first thing that springs into their head is the images, or some of the images that you see up on screen. You know, a bunch of men in the deserts wearing ninja masks with their AK-47s, or as they're called, Kalashnikovs. But I want to kind of talk quickly about one of the reasons that I really don't believe the official narrative of ISIS and what we're led to believe they are. And I think I'll start quickly by for example, celebrities. Okay, the Nice attack. We had Sylvester Stallone shares a photo of him moments before the Nice attack. We also had Bono was caught up in the Bastille Day massacre in Nice. So I want to talk about celebrities. Type in celebrities partying on YouTube, Google, sorry, you'll see continuous photos, countless photos, Why did ISIS never attack celebrities? Because they're quite capable, as we're led to believe, of attacking nightclubs and festivals and shopping malls, sometimes in broad daylight. What's stopping them from attacking a club where a lot of celebrities are held? Because I'm sure that would cause a lot more damage than just the everyday citizen being murdered. Wipe out a bunch of film actors and singers. But they don't. What's stopping them? Is it the big beefy bouncer at the door? Surely not, considering they're the fearless warriors that we're made to believe they are. Why did ISIS never attack celebrities? Now, the way I see it is they don't attack celebrities because in order for that to occur, a celebrity would have to die, which would in turn mean a celebrity would have to evaporate off the face of the mainstream media. That celebrity would be gone. They'd have to fake their death. Unless, of course, ISIS was real. But if ISIS was real, then they realistically would be attacking celebrities. But they don't. All we ever seem to hear about when ISIS do attack are some radicalized militants of some sort, whether it be Al-Shabaab, etc. They always kill people that you may not know, but you presume somebody else does know. But the person that you're presuming knows that person is also presuming that somebody else knows them. You get what I'm saying? It's an endless cycle. Nobody actually knows the person that dies, but they presume somebody else does. The same thing could actually be said for politicians. Now, politicians should be the key thing that, ISIS seem to attack, but they never do. Politicians partying, brilliant. Why do ISIS never attack politicians? In the UK alone, countless times politicians are outside Parliament conducting interviews, which are live on TV. Where ISIS, they might not be there on time, but they could quite easily go and make a scene down there, but they don't. Where were they at the Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump rallies? They weren't there. Where were they during the Brexit campaign? They weren't there. They're never anywhere to be seen. In fact, where were they at the Euros? If I type in ISIS Euros 2016, okay? This is just some of the pictures that the media was publicating at the time because ISIS was apparently threatening the Euros. You had it's the same in every paper. You have half of ISIS, half of whatever they're apparently targeting. The fact that ISIS are coming out and telling the media they're going to do these things should be springing alarm bells to people. Go on to all. And this was just some of the things, the headlines from the time. Islamic State feared to be planning chemical attack on the Euros. 2 ISIS cells en route to France to launch the attack. ISIS terrorists plotting devastation in London during Euro 2016 match. ISIS fighters heading from Syria to France to carry out blah blah blah. ISIS killers warn Euro 2016 will be a cemetery in chilling video. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And what was the solution to that? The solution was that they were going to up the security to make sure that no ISIS members got into the stadiums. But if ISIS were the real deal, it wouldn't really bother them that they couldn't blow themselves up inside the stadiums. They'd just do it outside. But that never happened either. It's bullshit. So now we come to the refugees. This has always been a long-standing argument in my case anyway, because it was the reason, or the main reason anyway, that I started to wake up to what was going on. Because about January last year, when I first read in the paper that Al-Qaeda were even scared of how deadly ISIS were, I genuinely thought to myself, holy shit, they must be really, really lethal. You fast forward a bit into time, and we began with the migrant crisis. And, well, the refugee crisis at the time, now known as the migrant crisis. But, you know, there was all these people fleeing what they said was ISIS. And it always struck me why they weren't closing the borders when the stories started to appear like ISIS spreading like cancer amongst refugees. We had... The stories began saying that NATO commander ISIS spreading like cancer amongst refugees. We had ISIS threatens to send 500,000 migrants to Europe as a psychological weapon. We had... shit, what's this? Sorry. ISIS jihadis use migrant crisis to get to the UK. We had... Hundreds of ISIS fighters have made it into Europe disguised as refugees. We had also, just wait, Islamic State reveals it has smuggled thousands of extremists into Europe. We had continuous bullshit, to say the least, and German intelligence warns of ISIL hit squads amongst refugees. And as I said countless times, the borders were never shut. It would have made sense to close those borders, especially after the perpetrated terrorist attacks that we were led to believe were ISIS inspired. By that moment, we should have had the borders closed, but that was never the case. All that was going to happen as of then was the migrants and the refugees alike were going to be vetted. That's what we were told. Not taking into consideration that even 5 or 6 of the ones in the Kali jungle or any of these other places where they were situated could have been quote-unquote radicalized. No. We had to let them all in, embrace the migrant crisis. They're fleeing war. When they talk continuously about the safety of our people, but that was never the case. We had to let them in. And just in case any of them were radicalized, all they would do was up the security. Which, as I said, leads you to this in London. The anti-terror police. Heavily armed to the teeth, to say the least, just in case there's a terrorist attack. You know, police officers walking around like that because it gives you the illusion that you feel safe, when it's not the case at all. Put it this way, if ISIS was the real deal and ISIS was radicalizing so many people, like Hillary Clinton said, oh, we're going to tackle ISIS online, that's just basically, that would have been, which will happen anyway probably in time. It's basically to give them more power to fucking monitor what people are doing online, because it's all bullshit, it's all an illusion that we're fighting a war on terror. The war on terror seems to create more terror. But if ISIS was the real deal in Europe and America and UK alike, there'd be a terrorist attack every single day. There'd be maybe even more than once a day, a terrorist attack. But it doesn't happen. It takes them months and months and months between each attack. I'm sick of the arguments I have with people, including my own family members, that sit there and actually believe the bullshit about how ISIS is doing this, ISIS is doing that. The countless arguments I've had with my grandfather about ISIS when I try to say it's just bullshit, and then he turns around and says to me, whenever one of these attacks eventually does happen, people died. How do we know people died? It goes back to what I was saying at the start. They never target anybody important. They never target celebrities. They target somebody or people that we're supposed to expect somebody else may know. And then, of course, you get the bullshit about the ISIS masterminds, you know, the ones that conduct Paris and Brussels, etc., etc. They occasionally crop up in the paper. ISIS masterminds, now ask yourself this again, it goes back to what I was saying. If ISIS was the real deal, there'd be a terrorist attack every single day. It doesn't take a mastermind to figure to conduct the quote-unquote attacks that they perpetrate. Any group of deranged men with a couple of guns to their name, which in itself is questionable, how the hell did they get guns when they're in Europe? But regardless, a couple of deranged men with a couple of guns to their name could go out and do the exact same attacks that these people are supposedly accused of doing, but yet we're led to believe it was a sophisticated plot that took weeks, if not months, to conspire and what's the word I'm looking for? Participate in. Never happens like that. The ISIS mastermind, as we're quite continuously reminded of. And obviously, the last thing I'll say is this as well. It goes back to what I was saying. Terror attack foiled. You'll hear this countless times. Maybe about 7-8 times a month. A terrorist attack has been foiled. Again, going back to how can a terror attack be foiled? It doesn't take 2 brain cells. If you've got the ammunition and the weaponry at your disposal to go out and perpetrate what these people are accused of doing, how can an attack be foiled? Because if they're the masterminds we're being led to believe they are, then realistically they shouldn't be getting foiled. They should be a bit more clever than to sit there and text or Facebook or email each other about what they plan to do. It should be under lock and key, and they go out and do it within days, not months, if not weeks, if not months of planning. The sophisticated planning to carry out a simplistic attack. As I said, I just wanted to make a quick video, even though I always say that, and it's a bit long, but regardless. ISIS is real. I'll say that. It is real in the Middle East. They are doing thy bidding of a certain country in that region. But they are not what we are told they are. Syria is just the next country in line, the same as Libya and Iraq before that. There's no difference. This is just for anybody that has an open mind, that maybe believes every paper that or media provider publicates bullshit, in my opinion bullshit, to maybe look at things with an open mind. If you are open-minded, if you're closed-minded, then this is pointless. But regardless, I'm going to leave in that note. So yeah. Peace.